All right, I have one book in case your guest comes.
Ready to go, Bill?
My book. We're ready to go. All right. This is the great diagram of the time of your life. Everything that you need to know about living life is on this slide. Just, it's amazing. So if we just have the next 100 hours, I can explain it all to you. I'm going to take 100 hours. All right, now I have to figure out how to get to the next slide. I go like this. Oh, yes, time of your life. Ta-da! Graphics by Chet. Okay, let's see what we're going to do today. Oh yeah, you have to answer some questions, because if you actually answer questions, I can address some of your issues. You have a thing that writes a pen? I used to have a pen, but then I had a phone, and then I gave away my phone. Thank you. Now, how about that stuff you put this on? Paper, yes. Don't worry, I'm a little more prepared than it looks. It's all up here, and I have memory like a steel. Yeah, one of those things. Okay, so why are you here? What do you want me to cover? I'll cover whatever you want. The first people who speak not only get their stuff covered, but get over their nervousness. Go ahead. What do you want?
Everything.
Everything. We do everything. Now, I can't do everything. There's not enough time for everything. So what are some things you'd like me to cover today? I want to be more organized. I want to have more time. I want to know what to do with my life. I hate my job. I hate my spouse. I want a spouse. Those are things I normally get. What else? Or any of those ones that you specifically would like me to cover?
Work-life balance.
A work-life balance. Yeah, do that. I think Steve know how to do that. Okay, I can do that. Actually, toyl was designed to help you do that. Yeah, Marshall.
Well, I wish there were more hours in the day, but there aren't, and so I just know I need to manage my hours I have.
You wish there were more hours in a day. Do you realize it's really a blessing that days end? So you want to kind of get more out of the...
I feel like I need to get more out of...
So at the end of the day, there's still stuff that you think you need to do.
Yeah.
And you don't go to sleep thinking, oh, I've done it all. It's like, I still got this to do.
I still sleep really well. And I always feel like I want to be able to maximize the hours.
Oh yeah, this is unfortunately good for obsessive compulsives because it helps you get the maximum amount of every day, but it also helps you balance it so you can enjoy life and those around you can enjoy you. Okay, what else?
I want a spouse.
I beg your pardon?
I want a spouse.
Oh, you want a spouse? Okay. I actually have a piece of paper that helps you get any goal you want in your life. It's called a project planner, and I think I do that just before lunch. You can use it for absolutely anything, starting a business, the works. Anything else? Yeah?
Prioritization.
Prioritization, how to prioritize things. Yep, that is one of the basic time management skills. One of the wonderful things about time of your life is that it helps you manage your time, but it also helps you manage your life so you can be more effective in the use of your time. Okay, do not answer this question. I want you to think about this, all right? What is your top desire? You have anything you want. Like this magic pen, I just borrowed it. It's really a wand. I can wave it. You can have anything you want. Anything. Think about what it is. Put some initials or something in the margin of your mind or paper. And I will help you get it. So when I talk about... Who do I want to? Thank you.
Oh, is it magic wand now?
The words make it magic. So anything that you want, I want you to think about that. So when I start talking about a desire, that's the thing I want to pop in your mind. Okay, now with all good things is a bad thing. What's your top need? You say, oh, I really wish I could solve that problem. I really need to take care of that. Things that you think about making a New Year's resolution for. No Garfield's here. And if you saw the Garfield cartoon for the New Year, Garfield says, my New Year's resolution is the same as I had my New Year's resolution for last year. Quote, don't mess with perfection. So a top need, something you really, something that's nagging you, irritating you, a bad habit, just something that makes you unpleasant to live with, something that you don't like about yourself. Okay, when I talk about need, I want that to pop into your mind because I will help you take steps towards meeting your top need and top desire. Okay, so that's the first question every toyl seminar starts with. Why are you here? And I promise, and I actually deliver on the promise, I will cover these things. If I don't at the end, you can get your money back. Okay. Oh, look at that, it actually works. Question number 2. Oh, I got one of these things too. Could be dangerous. Does it work?
It works.
It worked? There it is. Why are you here? It doesn't work very well. Why are you on this planet? So, what's your purpose for breathing air? Why are you contributing to the ozone depletion? Or whatever you're doing with it. Why are you here? Now, most people say, I can frame this for them, why do you go to work? And they'll say, I go to work to get money. Okay, why do you want money? Why is a phenomenal question. I want money so I can get food and pay my rent, so I have a comfortable place to sleep, so I can wake up the next morning and go to work again. Yeah, there's a circle that goes on here? So I go there to get money, to buy food, to pay rent, to have a good place to sleep, have enough strength and energy to go back to work tomorrow. Oh, but I use my money for enjoyment. Okay, so you go to work to get the money, to buy your food, to have a place to live, to have a few thrills in your life that have a law of diminishing returns, so you can start all over again and do it again and again and again. And now, hopefully, you should have a little light bulb. Bing! Something should go off in your mind saying, that can't be right. But that is most people's purposes for existing. So I'm going to spend a lot of time on your purpose for being on this planet. I could cover a lot of stuff, but this is the most significant thing. Unless you have a purpose for living, you have no business living. And if you're not fulfilling the purpose that you should have, you shouldn't be living. So we're going to talk about that. So you start by discovering your purpose for living. Some people call it a mission statement. Then you set a focus on your life, this is Roman numeral 2, by determining objectives. I'm going to talk about the difference between purpose, objectives, and goals in a few minutes. And I'm going to help you set objectives in 5 areas of your life. This gives you balance: work and career, relationships, personal growth, spiritual growth, and ministry. Almost all the stuff of your life fits into these categories. All right, so you have the work and career thing, and there's the balance with the relationship thing. That's going to be families and all that kind of stuff. And then sharpening the saw, personal growth, so you become a better person and more wonderful you. And then there's the really important stuff. This is why we're doing it on Sunday morning. Sunday morning? Yeah, it used to be. Okay. Spiritual growth, and then we'll talk about how to use that to benefit others in terms of ministry. So that's kind of where we're headed. I will get through all of that today. Let's see if we can go to the next one. Yes. You develop goals that help you reach your purpose and objectives. Fulfill them. Basically, when I graduated from college, my favorite thing in college was actually writing a paper. Sad but true. Yeah, it was on management. And after I kind of did that, I thought, what would happen if I took the same principles that are used for running a successful corporation and put them into running a life? So about a quarter century ago, I developed toyl. Basically, it's management by objectives applied to a human life. So there are some really good principles about how to run a life. Run a business, and they can be directly applied to a life. I also do a thing for people who are chronically late, and there's a on that later. Okay. So this is my approach to management. You plan, you organize, you supervise, and you evaluate. It spells POSE, so I can remember it really easily. And then the difference between management and leadership. Okay, everybody got a thought? I won't bother asking you because normally I get answers that are really off the wall. The key task of leadership is being able to sell on change. So I'm hopefully going to help you, lead you through this process by selling you on changing, because it's a superior way of doing things that will make you live happily ever after. We're also going to look about the truth of happiness. Anybody ever study happiness? Okay, great. Yeah, if you want to be happy, that's what most people, I want to be happy. All right, so how do you get to be happy? Toyl makes you happy, guaranteed, or your money back. And we'll look at truth and stuff like that. Okay, then there's these problems. I'm probably not going to get to the problem piece. Oops, how do I do this? By the way, I just learned how to use this program. Not using it very well. Ah, wow, it worked. How to overcome problems and achieving your goals. I'll do some of this stuff at the end if there's time and if you have interest. I got a bunch of tools to help you. Wait. That way. Come on. Bunch of life. Whoa, want to say that one again? Whoa! Yeah, there are a few more of those coming up, so keep watching. We have some tools to help you do it. Yeah, so they're basically paper tools. Can we get the fans up? Please, thanks. And we're going to take you through these things, tools to determine your purpose and objectives, tools to figure out how to get your purpose in life, tools to help you cut out time, and it's like all kinds of great stuff, and we will see that shortly. All right, we go to this one. In the book on page, whatever that is, 5 or so, I can't read the page. What?
8 and 9.
8 and 9, okay. You don't have to turn there. This is what normally happens when I do this in a 12-hour format. All right, so we're only got a couple hours to do this, maybe 3, after you take all the breaks. So that's all we're going to, you can read that on your own. You can work your way through it on your own. Okay, let's go down even further. Okay, here's the overview. We're going to look at purpose, we're going to look at objectives, we're going to look at priorities, and we're going to look at goals. So it helps if I help you figure out purpose and objectives, and I think the next slide does that. This is another flow chart for those of you who basically want to run your life as a business. Use research and development. There's marketing, manufacturing, and accounting. So those of you who like that business stuff are there. Okay, so I'm going to look at, I can't do that yet. I'm going to look at this section right here. Actually, it shows up. It's a future slide. I don't have a little preview of all my slides, so I have no idea. And I just put this together this morning, in the car on the way in. So we'll see what happens. But I want you to keep in the back of your mind that you have this help. God's at work in you to will and to do His good pleasure. That little graphic underneath it is the Holy Spirit. When I drew it, it looked like a flying banana. And I had a friend take pity on me and redraw it. So this is your basic life. This is the management by objective stuff, and that's where we'll spend most of our morning. And then this is the stuff that's uniquely you. These are all the factors that cause you to do what you do. Because once I figured out what's the right stuff to do, I didn't have a really great upbringing. I didn't have what it took to get me to my goals. So I started examining, well, why do I do what I do? And how can I change how I think and feel and value? And I actually have stuff in here that helps you do that. So huge amount of information behind that, but you're only going to see about 20 minutes of it. Let's see what else we have. Okay, we did that one. All right. So, does this go down? Yes, it does. Okay. Purpose answers the question, why? Why do you do stuff? Why are you on this planet? Okay, the why. Why is the most significant question you can be asking about things. So whenever you're waiting for an elevator, instead of watching the numbers, start thinking about why. And this incredible things that you can come up with if you answer the question why. I knew kids always ask the question why before we had them. So I started thinking through, okay, if I'm going to tell my kids something, I'm going to have to be able to answer why. And I kind of went out to the 5th or 6th level. They've only gotten to like the 4th level. Little do they know, I've got a head start on them. But it's, why do you do what you do? Why should you do things? Why are you on the planet? And that is your purpose. Then purpose leads to objectives. Objectives leads to goals. Super Bowl's coming up. It comes up every time. So ladies, if you hate football, please indulge me when I use this illustration. Why is there professional football? To provide entertainment. Why do you want to provide entertainment?
Sell advertising.
To sell advertising. Why do you want to sell advertising? To make money. Purpose of professional football is to make money. That's why it exists. Right? Why else would they do this? Why would they charge $1 gazillion for a commercial? Except it's to make money. That's the whole reason the thing exists. Okay. Now, how does a professional football team get to the Super Bowl? They win, right? That's the objective, all right? That's the general direction that you want to head in. If I win all my games, I get to the Super Bowl and I make money. So you see there's a relationship between the objective of winning games and the purpose of making money. The more games you win, the more money you make. Congruence. That's good. Okay. Now, what do they call it when the ball goes over that thing at the end and the referee goes,
Touchdown.
touchdown, right. Okay, so purpose, objectives, touchdown. No, that doesn't work. Let's try another name for it. Goals. Yeah, purpose, objectives, goals, okay? So, if the more goals you score, the more games you win, the more your chance of getting into the Super Bowl, the more money you make. See the congruence there? Okay, nod. Just like you know what you're going to look like when you fall asleep. All right, I got it. Nice, okay. So we're going to set our purpose, why we do something, what we do, and then when and how we do it. That's prioritization and goals, okay? That's where we're headed. Oh, and then you need a plan of action. So that's this thing over here. Oh, I love this pointer. It never runs out of hours. The plan of action is the basic steps you should take. Now, most stuff on time management starts right here. All right, what steps are you going to take? And it basically helps you be more efficient in living. But for the most part, you're not necessarily doing the right thing. Someone said the distinction between management and leadership is if you're stuck in the middle of a forest, management is basically cutting a path through the forest. And it's like organizing people to be brush cutters and brush removers and mortar bearers and snake killers, and they basically have everything work. The leader is the guy who climbs up the tree and says, oops, wrong forest, we're heading in the wrong direction, we need to go that way. So I want to help you lead your life by figuring out what direction your steps are going to take you in. You're going to take a lot of steps in your life. And if each one of them moves you closer to the goals and things that you really want, that would be good. And if they just kind of move you in a circle and you're lost, it's like my favorite image of a person, most people, is they're basically a styrofoam cup during a storm in the gutter. They're just kind of wherever the winds and the water takes them, that's where they go. And you know where gutter goes. It's not good. So we're going to look at that, then we're going to basically move to this next piece. You actually work your plan, you accomplish something, and then if you sow an act, you reap a habit. You sow a habit, you reap a character. You sow a character, you reap a destiny. And that gets you right into eternity. So there's some things down here to help you, cooperation, all these other people on the far side here, which you don't have. And then you get to evaluation. What did I get? And then you evaluate, and from evaluation you then set new goals. So this is kind of circle. This is the management by objective stuff. So once you figure out your purpose and objectives, which we're going to do today, they should be good for most of the rest of your life. Then what you do every month or so is going to vary, and you're basically going to be on your own for that. But I'll give you a couple hints as to how to go through there. Any questions thus far? Understand the difference between purpose, objectives, and goals. All right, let's move on. What do we do? Planning. Okay, there's lots of activities for planning. We're going to look at all these things, how to set purpose objectives. I'm not going to do too much on your values, it's there. We'll look at the bad, better, best ones. Most people have bad objectives when they come to one of these seminars. And I even got a section for basic teen competencies. If you're a teen, I gave you the bigger book. I've done something for a group of teens, so it's got a couple other things in there. So your parental units can go and kind of check that out and see what the things are. But planning actually starts with evaluation. Where are we? If you don't know where you are, how do you know where to go? Said the Cheshire Cat. Kind of a paraphrase. So there's a section on evaluation where you put your life under a microscope. It's not a microscope, that's actually a magnifying glass. I knew that. And you kind of look at what you've got, so you know what you want more. So I have on here, and I'm not going to do this with you. I would encourage you to get a cup of chamomile tea and sit down and evaluate your life. The way I came up with these things is, when I first started doing this, I read everything that there was on time management. Anything I've got my hands on. Multiple libraries, bookstores, the works. And then every year for the past 20 or so years, I've read whatever new stuff has come out. And I stopped doing it 5 years ago because there's really nothing new. If you've been to a time management thing before, there's some things that I'll do that are new, but the basic mechanics are the same thing. The thing is, people are always looking for the silver bullet. Maybe it'll work this way. It does. It's the same thing. You actually have to sweat and put some effort into it and get what you want. So whenever I came across something that said this was good for this aspect of life, I threw it on my list. So there's a bunch of the page of these things, but you can actually go and evaluate. And what I used to have when I do this as a class format, I'd have my students actually evaluate themselves and then pick their top need and desire in each area. So these are actually, if you look at these, there's a wealth of information in here. If you look at these things, you'll find out there are basic skill sets that you need for work. This tells you what they are. There are skill sets for relationships that are actually in there. Skill sets for being a more effective person, a nicer person, a happier person. They're all in there. I'd encourage you to look through it, but not what I'm talking about. Okay. This is an outline. I think I just posted it on TruthBase. You can actually go onto TruthBase and find the sermon that goes with it. Every year or so I actually do something like this and flip it on people to help them evaluate their lives and figure out where God wants them to go. Let's see if I go down this next one. Yeah, it's back there. Sorry, it's at the bottom of this one. Our purpose. What progress have I made toward fulfilling my purpose? That's kind of a good question to ask. You know, here I had a year. So in this past year, back, you know, what I get? I took 365 days, and this year you get an extra day. Did you know that? So what are you going to do with your extra day? Channel surf, of course. What else would I do? And then you reflect on what did this past year give me? Am I happy with what I got? I spent and invested a year. What did I get in return? That's the thinking that should go on in your mind. What's the exchange that you have? One of the things that totally set me on the right path was a quote that I came across early in my Christian life by Jim Elliot, saying something to the effect of, "A man's no fool who gives what he can't keep to gain what he can't lose." And you cannot keep any of the days that we've got, but you can exchange them for something more valuable. And that's really what you're doing. When you go to school, you exchange your time and your tuition to get some skills. Then you exchange those skills for money. It's all about economics. Talk to Chad about this. Okay, work at the very bottom. What value have I added to my employer? What service am I actually being paid for? And how have I grown in my ability? And I'm going to talk a little bit about it. Those are the questions you should be asking if you want to be more valuable. How do you get there? This will help you do that. And same, you do evaluate relationships, you evaluate your various areas. It's the same thing, it's a one-page thing that helps you do it. Okay, purpose and objectives. This is what we want to start with. And this is a worksheet, and you can fill it out, you can take notes, you can just listen. The best way to do this is for you to sit down and think about it because it's your life, and you want to figure out how to use it wisely. So the purpose for which God created me. Why are we here? So, we have a little thought or two on this. We'll scratch our head. Why are we here? How many have actually thought of this question? How many have an answer? How many have an answer they want to share? Okay, go ahead.
The existence of man is to glorify God.
Oh, that's actually pretty good. All right. I won't put you on the spot. Yes, I will. So how do you glorify God?
Praising Him.
Yay, God. Okay, done. Now what? To do His will? All right. We're going to talk about that. Very good. So let's go. Most people say they want to be happy. Right? So let me give you the truth of happiness because this is where the next slide is, and I try to rearrange it. I'll get all messed up. One of my favorite authors on this subject is David Myers. He writes the #1 textbook on college psychology. He happens to be a Christian. And came across this book looking at other stuff he wrote called The Pursuit of Happiness. And they studied hundreds of painstaking doctoral dissertations and other studies that were done on the subject of happiness and came up with some conclusions. And you get them right here. They just saved you thousands of hours of poring over these things. Some things that do enable happiness: fit and healthy bodies, and toyl can actually help you get there. Realistic goals and expectations. There's a purple arrow next to it. Must be important. Yeah, we're going to do that. I'm going to help you set smart goals. Positive self-esteem. If you can actually set a goal and achieve it, it gives you feelings of self-esteem. I have a whole section on self-worth and self-esteem. You can ask me about that for the second half. Feelings of control. You feel you can actually control your destiny. Feel good about yourself. If other people are inflicting pain on you, you don't feel good. And toyl will help you develop optimism because you'll realize, oh, I can do this. It actually helps you become outgoing. So how many, I won't answer this. Don't raise your hand on this, but how many of you would like to be more outgoing? You know, it's like, I think he's already got it.
Midlife crisis.
All right, there's actually a tool in here that will help you figure this kind of stuff. I have a friend who actually used the Project Planner to actually become more spontaneous. He planned how to be more spontaneous, and it worked. I got him a date. All right, helps you develop supportive friendships. I'm going to talk a little bit about friendships and how to be a quality friend and get quality friends. This is a mail order spot you can get them from. To help you have a nice marriage. Talk a little bit about that if you ask. I'll spend a little more time on challenging work and active leisure, that work-life balance, because that's an issue that people always seem to hit on. And last but not least, this is looking at all kinds of studies, secular for the most part, and basically they said if you want to be happy, you need a faith that has these components. And I give you those components. We'll actually talk about what those things are when we get to spiritual life and ministry. Some people want to be successful. So this is a Gallup poll on success. Being a hard worker always helps. I can actually help you become a hard worker, but that's the second half. Establishing well-defined personal goals, that's the first half. We're going to do that. Just drop down to the last one, number 16, love of reading and lack of TV. If you just kind of get rid of your TV, I'll take it if it's one of those plasma ones. You'll be a lot more successful and happy, and I'll be happy too, because I don't have your TV. Okay, so now we go into our road to Oz. Ooh, it's one of Jet's graphics. We're going to follow the yellow brick road to happily ever after land. Alright, so we're going to start with the bad, better, best. This is page 32. You might want to turn here. And what I'm going to have you do is do a neighbor nudge. You find your neighbor, you know, groups of 2 or 3, and I'm going to give you 2 minutes, because I want to have a bite of my donut, to figure out what's wrong with the bad. Alright, go. What's wrong with bad? Page 32.
That's not it.
What's wrong with bad?
What's wrong with that?
Which one?
Under life purpose.
It means that, right, afterwards you have eternal non-happiness. It's really nothing good.
Taking the context that we're not we don't have a definite life.
Yeah, but it's eternal life, everybody.
Well, I mean, I think part of the purpose of that is by happy. A lot of people
Well, if you try to
Okay, time. Thank you. All right. So what's wrong with number 1? Who's got number 1? What's wrong? You figured out what number 1 is, or are you talking about the donuts? To exist in the next 24 hours in a relatively happy, healthy, comfortable state. That's most people's objective. Anything wrong with that?
Perpetual.
It's perpetual. Works for me. So, what do you mean by perpetual?
It's just kind of like a continuous infinite loop that doesn't really...
Doesn't get you anywhere. So yeah, it's just a loop. That is what the animals do. They just exist. They breed. They die. They exist. They breed. They die. So the thing that separates us from animals, at least I hope it does, is that we have some sense of purpose. We can actually go somewhere and do something. One of the things that separates Western civs from other civs is that it's not this endless cycle. It actually has a purpose and a end goal. So people who exist in the next 24 hours, you don't want to have that, right? You want to take those 24 hours and exchange them for something better. To die with the most toys. Anything wrong with that? It's not very satisfying, selfish. What are you going to do with the toys? Yeah, someone else is going to get them. Solomon had that problem. All right, this is one that most people would not want to say this is their goal, but you'd be surprised to find security and significance outside of God. Know anybody like that? What's wrong with it?
It's not possible.
It's not possible. There's the realist. Very good. Anything else wrong?
That's maybe a good goal in life, but what about after?
Ah, yeah. What could happen next? And is that the purpose for which you're created? Basically, you are not a self-caused being, so there has to be the God picture in there. You can cause yourself to exist, and you can do all the wonderful things. But since you cannot cause yourself to exist, you eventually have to get to an ultimate creator, which most of the evidence points to. Anyway, to be happy by gratifying my desires in any way I can. Well, most people don't say this stuff in parentheses. That's really what they mean. So what's wrong with that?
Grass is always green on the other side. You're never fully happy.
Yeah, grass is always green on the other side. You're never fully happy.
You might hurt others.
And you hurt others. Okay, to be as happy, to gratify my desires, as long as I don't hurt anyone. Usually someone always winds up getting hurt. Okay. Okay, the better ones. To get to heaven and glorify God. Alright, invest my life in things that will outlast it, to know, love, and serve God, increase God's reputation in the lives of others. Oh, that's not bad. I wonder who wrote that. Oh, I did. As I experience Christ at work in and through my life, to reap maximum blessings for maximum obedience. If you don't know why these are good, you need to think about it. I don't have, I've already overtaxed you, I realize, but you really want to look at those things and say, oh, which of those is really good? The best one is the one that you write. So I'm only going to show you this in a couple. I don't have time to do all of them. It's not an objective thing. So I'm going to help you actually write your first life, your life purpose, and embrace it, and understand it, and have a plan that flows from it. Let's see if it goes there. This is a sheet called, I can't see what the page number is. 36, thank you. I actually have spotters up here because I can't see these things. This is page 36, the biblical basis of toil. This is also something that, on the leap year day, you could actually read through these things and say, oh wow, there's a biblical basis for all this stuff. Who knew? Well, now you do. So we're going to zip in onto the purpose. These are the verses here. And is it Matthew? Is he the guy? Matthew? What's your name? Matt. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, Matt said, glorify God, which I think is a really good purpose. So Isaiah 43:7 says, everyone is called by my name, who I created for my glory. And then a little later, I formed for myself that they might proclaim my praise. And that was part of Matt's answer. And we need to understand exactly what that means to be able to fulfill it. But God created this, the nation of Israel, for His glory. There's some other verses out of the New Testament that are also have bearing on the subject. Jesus' purpose in John 7, does this have a little, I need to get a bigger pointer for this. John 17:4, I brought you glory on earth by completing the work you gave me to do. Now, Molly mentioned the will of God, and that's kind of, God has work for people to do. How many of you are utterly, totally convinced you know exactly what the will of God is for your life, for today, tomorrow, and the rest of the week? You should. We will cover that. If you don't know it, that I think is what I do right after lunch. So make sure you come back early from lunch to do that. But we're going to look at how you can figure that out, know what it is, do it, and live happily ever after. Here's a verse most Christians are familiar with. 1 Corinthians 10:13. So, whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Most of you have heard this before. I see some, oh yeah, right. So what I do in some of my classes when I teach at New York School of the Bible is we get the class to this point, and they'd all say, amen, brother. And then I'd say, okay, so how do you glorify God? And actually, they couldn't come up with praise. It's like, whoever thought of that? So, it says, whatever you do. That means you should be able to look back over the past week, look at every single activity, and draw a line between that and glorifying God. If you can't do that, you're not living life as God intended. But don't feel bad. That's my job. I'll feel bad for you. But I'm going to show you how to do that. And that's one of the things that's going to happen today, is you will learn how to do that. You might have to change some of the stuff you do, like making snappy comebacks that put the other person down. How does that relate to glorifying God? I don't know. Let me work on it. You should be able to come up with it. Okay. So, what does it mean to glorify God? Well, the little purple arrow tells me that there's a word glory there, and the Hebrew word for glory is kavod, and the word for kavod means liver. Liver? Yeah, liver. Okay, the liver is the most important, but it was the biggest organ. So, they'd see a body that's laid out and sort of just ripped apart, and they'd point to it and go, kavod! That was the liver. So how do you actually liver God? Well, you take off the idea of important, and it's to make God seem important. It's also used for something that was heavy, to make God be one of the heavyweights. So you all know in all the martial arts contests, the heavyweights have arrived, or in the business office, the more important people have come up. So our job is to help God look important. All right, if you've heard this illustration before, I'm really sorry, but one of the few illustrations I actually have. So Jill and I were camping through Europe after I finished grad school, and most of Europe has a pub and a cathedral. So once you get outside, you stop at one and then you stop at the other. So you go into the cathedral, and they're always dark. But I have this, I love stained glass. So I look at all the stained glass, take pictures. I don't know what you were doing, but my poor suffering wife, she was probably praying, lighting a candle for me. Anyway, so after a while, your eyes adjust, and then you can start making out the frescoes. And the frescoes are the things they paint on the ceiling and the walls that kind of faded over time. So we're in this little church in northern Italy, and my eyes are starting to get adjusted, and I'm kind of trying to make out what's this big thing behind the altar. And it looks like there's God on a throne or something, and then all of a sudden it burst into light, and I could see that it was all overlaid with gold leaf, and it's God in His glory. He's on His throne, He's got His scepter, everybody's bowing down to Him, and the light was just like dazzling. It wasn't one of those experiences. It was basically, you had these little boxes on the side, and you put a 500 lira coin in the box, and turned on the lights for 2 minutes so you could see what was going on. So someone dropped the 500 lira coin in the box, and it turned on the light, and I could see God in His glory. And I realized, hey, that's our job. Our job is to pay the cost to turn on the light so others can see God. That's why we're here. That's what it means to glorify Him, to have His glory be seen. Little box at the bottom, God is inherently glorious. That means it's His nature. And He's glorified whenever He shows up. So all we have to do is get Him to show up. Doesn't work. The other ways that do work. This is how you can bring God glory. And I won't read too many slides to you, but I'll probably read most of this one to you because it's really important. We live our lives in risky dependence upon God so that He intervenes in answering our prayers. It's the background to most of the Psalms. God, help! Philistines are attacking. Amorites are attacking. Your neighbors are attacking. Help! If you help me out of this one, I'll praise you. God helps, He praises. He writes a psalm. So the background of a lot of worship in the Old Testament, actually almost all of it except for the ritual worship, was you were in a fix, you called out to God and said, God, help. You usually made a vow. If you get me out of this one, I'll never bother you again. God says, nope, that's not my purpose. Okay, if you get me out of this one, I'll praise you. All right, a little better. How are you going to do that? I'll take an animal and I'll go to the temple and I'll sacrifice it and I'll tell people what you did for me. All right, you got it. And that's the background of the Psalms. You'd take an animal down, you'd sacrifice it, and these are these free will and thank offerings. You'd thank God for what He did. And then you would stand up and you can't eat a whole animal. So basically you'd roast the animal, you'd give your friends the barbecue, and you'd say, the reason you're enjoying this great Q is because of what God did for me. Let me tell you about it. And if you're poetic, you'd actually do a little poem called a psalm, or what's the Norwegian thing that you guys just went to? Islam. Islam poetry? Yeah, you can do one of those too if you want. I'm trying to be culturally relevant here, folks. Bear with me. It's kind of hard. All right, so you tell God about it. Now, the essence of sin is independence. I don't know if you ever figured this out yet. You're living independently of God. You're just doing your own thing. You can trace this all the way through the Scripture. You can find a sermon on it on truthbased.net. But the essence of sin is independence, and this is the opposite. You live in dependence upon God. And you go through your life depending on Him. He comes to your aid. He gives you strength. He does all this wonderful stuff. Remember, He's at work in you to will and to do His good pleasure. Okay, back to normal talking speed. Number 2, proclaiming to others how God has revealed Himself, both in answering our prayers and in His Word. So you really can't do number 2 unless you've done number 1. You depend on God, He helps, then you go tell others about it. That is praise. Not, yay Jesus. Okay, that's like baby praise. We want to actually say, what has God done for you? He forgave my sins. Great, now what? There's got to be more stuff, and that's what comes next. Actually, a couple more. Demonstrate the character of God in our own lives, so He's revealed through us to others, both now and then. If you ever have studied the concept of the glory of God, the time when God really gets glorified is when He comes back and hands out glory to His faithful saints. He comes to be glorified among the saints, that's when it happens. So you want to live your life so God can bless you by giving you glory. If I gave you $10, it's like, wow, you have to pay people to come to this? If I gave you $1,000, you'd go, whoa, you must be loaded. If I gave you 100,000, you'd say, what's going on here? The more I can give, the more it shows that that's what I have. So God displays His glory, His infinite glory, by pouring it out on others. And Satan's there going, I should have obeyed. Okay, number 4. Oh yeah, response to revelation is worship, for those of you who didn't know that. Acknowledging the supreme worth of God through our unreserved heart, mind, soul, strength, obedience. One of the guys who helped start BAC, or in the early years, worked on Wall Street, and he was an attorney for an investment banking firm, and he had a colleague who billed his client 25 hours of work in one day. And the client was happy to pay it. For those of you who are clock challenged, there's only 24 hours in a day. So where do you get the 25? We actually started work in New York and finished in Chicago. And just worked around the clock to get the deal done. It's kind of impressive that a company can wring that amount of effort out of an employee. So that firm went up in my mind as, wow, they must, they're pretty good if they can get their employees to put forth that amount of effort. They know how to do that. You acknowledge God's worth by what you give him. So what do most people give God? Headaches, lip service. How much is he worth? So if you look at, well, he's worth less than 1% of your time is what most people who go to church actually give God. So that's all he's worth. Unreserved heart, mind, soul obedience. You basically do things for the sake of God so others can see his character and his worthiness through your life. And number 5, you develop Christ-like character in others, which is what disciple making is all about. We'll talk about that near the end. So this process gets repeated. So those are tangible ways that you can bring God glory. So you want to basically start taking your list of activities that you do through this grid to see, does this actually contribute to God's reputation? Jesus said, so let your light shine before men, and let me see your good works and glorify your Father who's in heaven, Matthew 5. So that's one of the things you want to do. I'm going to help you. I'm going to go back to this in a second. 2 greatest commandments. Ever hear these? Love God, love your neighbor. I always tell my students, know what's on the final exam. If there are 2 great commandments, you think they're going to be in the final exam? Or do you think God said, okay, here are the really important commandments, and then we'll totally forget about them for eternity? These are 2 important commandments, so I want you to do them. So, you've all heard these. Have you ever figured out how you're going to do it? Oh yeah, I'm going to commit random acts of kindness. And exactly how does that glorify God? So you basically need to come up with a life plan to fulfill loving God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and loving your neighbor as yourself. Matthew 22 talks about that. Love is one of these things that people are a little foggy on. Love is doing what's in another person's best interest. It's not a feeling, it's a commitment, it's a loyalty, it's a sacrifice. Like God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him won't perish but have everlasting life. It's a commitment, a sacrifice, purposeful. By the way, speaking of purposeful, I usually mention this a little bit earlier, but I missed it. The book of Titus was written to New Testament believers, and it addresses all the individual groups within a church. Old men, old women, young women, middle-aged women. Anyway, and there's one command that is given to each particular group, repeated, same one, and it's to be sound-minded. And this was a Greek ideal of having your passions controlled by reason, objectives. So you didn't just live like an animal, you lived on a higher plane by taking your desires, sublimating them, that means you put them down to get something come up, like a mushroom cloud, for the glory of God. So you need to come up with plans in order to do this. This is what objective living is all about. Questions on that one? Okay. So what you need to do is come up with a purpose for which God created you, and then a plan for bringing God glory. You're not going to be able to do that now, but hopefully I'll have stuck enough of a bug under your saddle to make you do it. And at the bottom there is a plan for glorifying God and loving others. This is your life. This gets the focus, the direction that's set, and now we're going to move to the focus. Life plan. Okay, spend 2 minutes, tell me what's bad with these life plans. Go. Just these ones here.
Not necessarily bad in the sense that the potential is to glorify God. It's not just like the second command of others.
We should already deny advantage, so it's so authentic. There is no third commandment that says yourself more than...
Yeah, you're right. But I mean, I was going to Paul and I want to do this because I want to.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the very first one.
Right. But I think the second one...
It's just a manner in which you do the thing that you have to do. I would argue that's virtually impossible.
I wouldn't say necessarily, but
having other leg it's not bad. It should be a byproduct of doing things. Although there will be people who will end up not liking you.
Okay, stand up and have a stretch. Just stretch. I'm working on that healthy, fit bodies things. It's just a stand-up stretch. Okay, every stretch. All right. I see that hand. Okay, have a seat. That was it, just to get the kinks out. Okay, which one of the ones do you want me to talk about?
Number 3.
Number 3, to leave the world a better place than I found it. What's wrong with that? Somebody else.
You're constantly looking backwards.
You're constantly looking backward. What's going to happen to the world? Is it eternal? Poof. Yeah, it's poof. So you're putting, it's like you build this whole thing and it just goes up. So is that the point of life? I don't think so. How about another one?
What about the first one?
The first one, to maximize my potential. Hitler had the potential to be a great world dictator. I'm glad he used it. So did Stalin. All right, so I have a potential, but it's really self-centered because I'm on this planet in part to serve others. So if I just maximize my potential, I wouldn't be here. I'd be out under a palm tree somewhere sipping a pina colada. It's like, that's kind of a self-centered thing. It's just, I just want to have my potential, but we have potential for things that are bad. Did Jesus come to earth to maximize his potential? No, he came to serve. You want to be great, you need to be a servant. All right? That's one of the major lessons of the Gospel of Mark. It's actually right in the center. Boom, that's really important.
Sorry,
Yeah, sure.
saying counter, but then he may say, I maximize my potential to be the best servant, that's also maximizing his potential. I apologize.
You have potentials for evil, and there have been a lot of world conquerors. Have they actually done a whole lot of good? They've done some good, but for the most part, it hasn't been that great. Any others?
The last one.
The last one. To fully live every moment as if it were my last. Well, none of us would be here. Right? Because if this is, like 1 hour, it's all over, this is not what we'd be doing. Right? At least I wouldn't be. I might be eating more donuts. Donuts! I wouldn't plant any trees. It's like if you wouldn't go to school. You wouldn't do your job. All right. So you basically have to back up, saying, "Okay, I'm going to have to be here a little bit longer, so I need to plan between now and when I have my last moment." Any other ones on that one? Yeah. Which one?
I think I want to counter the last. I'm not saying I'm really debating. I think the last sentence doesn't mean that way. It just means if you live every moment, it seems like you're last, then you set your priority, then you don't want to regret.
Right, but you need to have plans. And if this is your last moment, then yeah, you should maximize every minute for some bigger purpose.
Were all these are from Bible itself?
No, the bad ones I've heard people say these. I've observed them in life.
What are your references?
I beg your pardon?
What are your references? Where are these?
They're from people that I've heard say these things.
Like what kind of people could you share with us?
Like yourself.
I didn't say
I've listened to what people say, and this is what they live for.
I didn't say anything about it, and
No.
I just wanted to know the background story of these bullet points.
I've been, over the years, I've accumulated why people do what they do. I've asked them. They told
Can you
me.
give me some examples, please?
Alan, you're being interrupted. Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
The better ones are to love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. I was like, that's a biblical one. To influence the world around me for Jesus Christ, being his disciple, to grow in Christ-likeness, help others do the same. Disciple-making, that ties into the bottom of the disciple-making line. Okay, so the best one is one that you pick for yourself. Make sense? Objectives, I just have a little piece down here. And we're going to cover this after a break. I'll get back to this piece. The middle one, Psalm of Moses. And this kind of relates to the piece that Cindy made earlier. Moses is reflecting on life out of Psalm 90. He realizes he's only got 60, 70 years. And then he says, wow, what should I do with my days? Teach me to number my days that might apply my heart to wisdom. Now, wisdom is the choice of the right objectives and the right means of obtaining the objectives. Some of you know that because you find the sermons on wisdom on Truth Base. The word for wisdom is used of the guy building the temple in the Old Testament who would carve the capital. You know the big pillars at the top, they have all that intricate carving kind of stuff? And from what I understand about sculptors, if they want to carve a lion, they look at the block of marble, they see a lion, and they chip away everything that's not a lion. I look at a block of marble, I see a block of marble. I do not have the picture of the right objective, nor do I have the skills to do that. But that's the skill, to figure out what you want to go for and the right means of going for it. That is wisdom. The book of Proverbs is designed to give you wisdom. So, as Moses is reflecting on the fact that life is short and then you die, he says, I want to pick the right objectives and the right means of obtaining them. Jesus went, is this one? No, it's the next one. Be very careful, says Ephesians 5, how you live, making the most of the time. Actually, the literal text there is redeeming the time, buying back the time, exchanging the time for something that's worthwhile. Because the days are evil. Don't be foolish, but be wise, understanding what the will of the Lord is. So the thing that we want to do is we want to figure out what God wants us to do. That's the objective. And then what are the best means of obtaining that objective. Now, how are we going to find out what the will of God is? Come back after lunch, we'll talk about that. Give you a hint, he tells us in the scriptures. Okay, so we got purpose, why we do what we do, objectives, and I'm going to have you help you set objectives in the 5 areas of your life that I talked about. And we'll go through them in a minute. And then all I'm going to have time for today is to help you set one goal in one area, and then you're going to have to go do it the next. I just want to teach you the process so you can use it yourself. Someone asked for priorities. There's a time for everything, says Solomon. And let's see if I can go down on this or up. One of those priorities, according to Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount, is seek first His kingdom. First. Do that first. And if you understand the Sermon on the Mount, it's seeking the reward in His kingdom. And then you get all this other stuff that people worry about given to you. Jesus' example is really great in Mark 1. He's getting a good reception. People want to hear what he has to say. And they come to him and say, hey, everybody wants to hear you. And he says, let's go to the next town. And he was able to basically avoid that pull and accomplish his purpose of coming. He says, for this purpose, this is why I've come. Some modern versions say, this is my purpose in coming. So he spent time every morning affirming his purpose. And I'm going to actually show you a little bit how to do that. What's next? Okay, we're going to do some objectives in terms of work. We're going to look at what the scriptures have to say about work. We're going to look at what it has to say about relationships. How it talks about spiritual growth. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to talk about personal growth in ministry. The bottom right one is not a self-portrait. That was not the model for it. Have you ever heard of a clown ministry? People dress up as clowns, they go around, they make people feel good. That's most people's idea of ministry. That's really not what ministry is all about. You can actually have some fun with that. And we'll take a... You guys need a break? Okay. Yeah, if I can go a little further, it would be great because we're a little stuck behind. I want to talk about work and career. All right, so to do that, we're first going to look at your work objective. Okay. Go to it. 2 minutes. Why are you bad? You need to stand up and stretch, do so. Where are those bad?
Proper timing. Some people same as we with the most stories. Yeah. One thing I remember. I don't think anyone knows. I have to think a lot about it. The real yeah. It's trying to find security and helping the economy. Right. The world, society. People thrive. Well, some people can actually be deceived in actually thinking that they have accomplished that. about people who were at the funeral of a colleague, and the lady who died was always very happy and positive, and I tried to make the point that you can't really be happy outside of this world. And yet, this person was happy, so they were deceived up till the point of death about their stories.
Okay, let's answer some questions. What's wrong with number 1? Anybody?
It's sort of Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. What's wrong with Donald?
Number 2, the Donald.
Because people get hurt? And it's selfish? And is it attainable?
No.
All right. What's number 1? I'm number 2, Michael Milliken. What's wrong with that one? He was a bond trader, people wouldn't. Yeah.
You're taking shortcuts to get possessions. You're taking shortcuts to get possessions rather than waiting for what God wants you to get it.
Oh, very good. Yeah, but where's the dependence upon God there? It's a shortcut. And do people who have money be happy? Are they thrilled? They live wonderful lives? People have fame and fortune. The celebrities, they do really well. No, okay, I don't think so either. Okay, so this is a good one. I put this in every year, and through the years it becomes more appropriate. Help the economy by becoming the means to become a good consumer. Spend, 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 spend. And how about this last one? Anybody see that in their workmates? So you want to find security outside of God? Is that going to work? No. Self-worth outside of God? Ultimately not when we do the issue and self-worth. Okay, so the better ones are going to be the ones down there. You can probably, do that. Fund your life purpose. I like the middle one there. Utilize the unique abilities God's given. That's good. Though sometimes you need to not use your unique abilities because there's other purposes to be served. Let's take a look at what the scriptures have to say on the subject. Yeah, this guy. Let me pull this up a little bit higher. All right, this is a...
Need to go back.
Back, thanks, Jed. Forward. I can't. Oh, yes, I can. Look at that. These are means of evaluating your job. Up at the top, there are 5 different spheres. I used to actually draw graphs. The work that you actually do, the investment of time, energy, and skill, the present, people, and environment, the future, and then the return. So there are these 5 aspects, and they can all change. So it might be really bad now. Most jobs have this learning curve. Then it gets better, and then you get more. So it works better. Sometimes the job just takes too much time. So one of the great thoughts of the Old Testament is that the agricultural model worked well. And if you think about what lessons you can learn from that, there are cycles, there are rhythms. There's times when you have to work really hard, there's times when you relax. There's times when you work really hard, there's times when you relax. When you put people on a treadmill and they work, then they burn out. So the industrial age wasn't really cool on that. Most of you are in jobs that try to wring every last ounce of strength out of you. That's what good managers do. But you need to have some sort of balance. And you have to know how to push back. You have to know how to manage your boss. There's a book called Managing Upward that, I think, is that the title of it, or Managing Your Boss? Could be either one. You just Google it, and it gives you some helpful hints on how to do that. I used to spend more time on this one, but a lot of you have already been through this. Finding a job you can love. A lot of you want new jobs. This is, I'm going to give you, this is half of a $5,000 or $6,000 career counseling thing. You can do this with your kids. It's actually a thing on discovering your kids' design in a couple more slides. But the idea is that there are basic motivational thrust. If you find a job that uses it, you'll be happy. And this is done by the people called Interchristo. They first got into this field by trying to match Christians with Christian service opportunities. A mission in Nicaragua once retired Christian carpenter. Put the 2 of them together and they set them up. Then they started doing seminars and they started doing thousands of hours of counseling. And they discovered that people basically have these 24 motivational thrusts, and if you identify yours, you'll be happy finding a job that does that. Let's see if I have the, there's that one. Okay, yeah. So I can go, oh, okay. I don't have this piece. A couple slides coming up, I'll actually show you how to do that. It's basically you look at your life, you go back to different periods of your life, finding things that you really enjoy doing. Various jobs that you really enjoyed. Summer vacations if you're a kid, or even if you're an adult, pick a vacation you liked, and you basically try to tap into what you really, really liked. And a career counselor basically helps you do that kind of stuff. The other piece that goes with this is the Myers-Briggs stuff, and I think that's one of my last slides way towards the end. But Do What You Are is the book that goes with that one. Let's look instead at Work as Worship.
Hey Bill,
Yeah.
what do you do if you're stuck in a job you don't love? Right? Okay, it's easy if you're a high school student, you're trying to start your career.
If you're a high school student, you grow out of that one. If you're stuck in a job you don't love, and they usually don't last forever. There's a project planner. I'm going to show you how to do it, illustrate in a quiet time. You need to figure out what you don't like about it, what you can change about it, and sometimes it's you need to find another job. So the project planner actually helps address that issue.
Bill, do you have a minute to spend a minute on the other slide? I don't understand the central motivational process.
Okay, sure.
Give me a minute. I mean, these are all just words.
All right. If you did your snapshot, so the way you do a snapshot, you take a mental snapshot of yourself doing something you really liked when you were 7, when you were 14, when you were 21, when you were 28, each job that you've had, and you say, boy, if I could go back and be there for one more day, what was it I really enjoyed doing, I was really proud of, I liked. And then you actually develop a little storyline, and it's on the page of this called The Great Niche, Finding a Job You Can Love. It's actually, there should be a page that tells you this. And you develop a storyline of what you actually liked about that particular scenario that came up in your mind, what would have made it more enjoyable, why you stopped doing it. So you get like a paragraph under each mental snapshot. Then you look for the common thread. These are the common threads, acquiring and possessing something. Like I had a stamp collection, and I searched and searched and searched, and I finally got that stamp I really wanted. And then you'd see that later, and they want to get stuff in gadgets, but I'd be a guy. But it's basically there's the acquire possess thing. The Apostle Paul his basic thrust was to combat and prevail. Made it great for being an apostle, and miserable to be married to him. Some people, they want to improve and make things better. So you'd actually see in your snapshots, I kind of improved this and I made that. And basically, if you go into an interview and a person who's savvy will ask you, well, what do you like about your last job? 5 o'clock, coffee breaks, lunch. you have so some people want to master and perfect. I just want to make it perfect. These are people who should never breed because they'll ruin their kids. But I had a friend who wanted to be an opera singer, and her opera career wasn't going anywhere. So I asked her, well, why don't you try for one of the Broadway things? And she said, oh, I could never sing that trash. I didn't think the lyrics were that bad. There's some musical theater people, and they're cool. And she said, I want to sing the perfect note. So her thing was to perfect. Now her job that was feeding her opera habit was she was secretary to the principal of a CPA firm. And she just loved typing the perfect column of numbers. That does nothing for me. But that turned her crank. She just loved perfecting. And unfortunately, I don't think she ever had any kids that she ruined trying to perfect them and get them all to line up straight and narrow and whatever. So you look through those snapshots to see what the common thread is. And then you take those snapshots and you use the next thing, which is the great niche hunt, which is, there are other pages in this that I'm not going to use slides on. But then you can actually see how you like to gather information, process information, output information. It's the basic thing you do on a job. You gather, you do something, you put it out. So you then have an idea of this is what I'm made to do. These are individual hardwiring. They're not necessarily, as far as I know, I've not seen them as socialized tendencies. And of course, you can, obviously, you're doing a well-rounded job, you're going to be doing some of all these things. And there'll be pieces of it in each job. Make sense?
Yeah, maybe you get to rank them personally.
Yeah, eventually you'll getting in touch with it. I like a job, and the great niche hunt actually does this. You go check off. There's actually a little check-off sheet. So you take the snapshot, once you understand, you check off which of these snapshots have these elements, and then actually one of them has all the checks. That's me. And then you realize, okay, that's what I need to look for, a job that utilizes this. So, biblical view of work and worship. Scriptures say a number of that. Let me just go through the acrostic. Work is worship if it's done with the right motives and the right attitudes. Motives are crucial. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you saying what you're saying? Why? What's driving you? Work is ordained by God for our benefit, as are all His commands. It's not like, I'm going to make life miserable by working. Work only became difficult after the fall, but God actually put people here to do work. And you want to find a job that you can enjoy. Now, little caveat to this, the reason they pay you is because there are things that you don't enjoy. If it was all pleasure, you would pay them. All right? So they pay you to do stuff that you don't like. That's the fact of life. Okay? Work can be rewarding and can be rewarded 2 times if done biblically. Maybe later I'll talk to you about how to get a second paycheck. Colossians 3 tells you how to do that, actually. And then consists of, misspelling, of serving another's needs, helping them reach their objectives. The basic thing they pay you for is to serve a need. So you should be able to think, what am I doing? Like your teachers at school, they are serving your need for information and skills. If you're a student, how are you serving others' needs? That's the one that's a little bit tough. But every other job, when they're paying you because you are meeting a particular need. So what need is being met? And if you know what that need is, then that's the thing I should be focusing on for my job. They don't always tell you what this thing is. So you need to be able to figure that out. Wrong reasons for working. We're running short on time, so you can go through those. Most of people, these are some of the objectives. But you can read through those on your own. Then there are right reasons for working. Let's look at number 4 and 5. Working. Let me back up. Most of you are probably, not most of you, I'm sure some of you are thinking, wrong reason number 1 is I'm working so I can meet my needs, to keep body and soul together. Is that biblical? Give us this day our daily bread. It's God's job to meet our needs. We just need to be doing what God wants us to do, and then He'll meet our needs through it. The right reasons for working are in part it's because it's commanded. All right, so we do it. It's a channel through which God meets most of our needs. All right, so it's not totally divorced from the other piece. Enables us to give. 4 and 5 are key. It develops our character and skills for God. David serving Solomon, dodging spears, dodging Solomon. It's just like that actually developed. Whoops, Saul. Thank you. Yeah. Somebody's been reading Daily Truth Base. The character development that goes on a job is really beneficial, even though it's miserable. It's sandpaper, and we would probably choose not to have it. But believe me, God has it there for your best interest, and He helps you develop through that. Number 5, it develops a ministry or testimony with the unbelievers. This is what you're developing Christ-like character on your job. So as you go to work, it's I am here to represent Jesus Christ. This is what a follower of Jesus Christ looks like. And you need to understand that Jesus Christ had a soft side and a hard side to Him as well. When He was in the presence of sin and hypocrisy, wasn't exactly that pleasant. Polished and refined, we already talked about that. Okay, so there are ways to make it a worshipful witness, ways to make it enjoyed, and since you probably look at this one on your own, I won't look at it anymore. Here it is, the Great Niche Hunt. Let's see if I can make this let's go down here. So this is the stuff I was talking about. You take an action shot, and then the stuff underneath it, preferred style of processing information, problem solving. You then look at each snapshot and you just put a little check wherever these things showed up. And then you look where all the checks are, and then you get insight into how you are wired, and then you want to try to find a job that fits that. How you influence people. So the two guys, the guys who wrote the second book called The Great Niche Hunt, built on discovering your design. And that's about half of a multiple $1,000 career counseling stuff. It's pretty simple. There's a book out called Discovering Your Child's Design. So for you parental units that have kids that you want to try to figure out what they do. We tried, we gave up. All right. There's stuff on relationships. So that's a major part of your life. most people have work, and then they got relationships, and sometimes the two coincide, sometimes they don't. So all relationships have at their core the idea of friendship. And you want to figure out how to have a good friendship and be a good friend. And to do that, we need to come up with a relationships objective. Okay. So what is a good relationships objective? This objective contributes to my life purpose and plan. And then I have short-term and long-term goals that could actually fulfill the objective. So I'm actually going to do this one on another category, but that's what we're going to do there. Relationship objective. One bad one. You don't have to discuss this. This is what you can observe most people have as a relationship objective. To get their need for blank met through others. It's called using people. That is the basic relational objective. Sad but true. Spouses do this. Parental units do this. Kids do this. Bosses. You can probably see this most clearly in a bad boss or a bad coworker. They're just using others to meet their needs for significance, for security. Even friendships, like, hey, they go really, they kind of have a mutually abusive relationship where they use each other to meet their need for stimulation and fun. It's all about what can I get from this person. And when they stop being fun, we find a new friend. And you get the idea. Two subsets of this. To never be hurt or be vulnerable. It's more of a possible, build up a wall, hide behind it. To be accepted and supported unconditionally. Does God accept us and support us unconditionally? Don't answer that. Think about it. Did He support and accept Israel unconditionally? Did He discipline them? Did He send them into captivity? Did He wipe them off the face of the earth? Yup. So don't try to have a higher standard than God. God accepts people who relate to Him in a proper manner. If they fail to do that, He doesn't accept them. And then He starts bringing all kinds of nasty stuff to get them to turn around because that's in their best interest. One last one on the relationships. To please others so they'll like me. These are wonderful people. You can get them to do anything. But then, that would be using them. All right. So, but a lot of people think, I want people to like me. And most of you kind of know the puppy dog kind of person. And after a while, it's like, I don't want this kind of relationship. They're too needy. And it's kind of sad because they never learned how to get self-worth and self-value. And actually we'll do that in the second half. If I don't mention that, please raise your hand and say, hey, what about that self-worth and self-value thing you talked about? Better relationship is to develop intimate, transparent, accountable relationships. 3 different aspects, think about them. They know you, you know them. What you see is what you get. And we can talk about what's going on in each other's life, which stimulate others to Christ-likeness, because being like Christ is about the best thing you can have happen.
I have a question.
Yes?
What's best?
Best is the one that you come up with. So the betters...
Well, the betters all sound pretty good.
You can pick one of them.
So
I get royalties. If you pick any of the better, you actually... So really, the best one is the one that you want to have your own. So you can pick one of those better ones. You can tweak it. So there's nothing wrong with the betters. But they fit different size people. So, and then if you want to make it, personalize it even more, go for it.
Bill,
Yes?
should the objective be tailored to how God made you, or is it all from Scripture?
Okay, objectives have, remember purpose, I didn't show you this slide. Purpose comes out of the Scripture, all right? That's one size fits all, because we're all created beings. Objectives, if you look at the diagram on the front of the book, and I try to go to it, but I don't want to mess things up. It's got 2 arrows. One comes from the Scriptures, because the Scripture says, do this, do this, do this, don't do this, do this, don't do this, do this, don't, do. All right, they're actually real specific stuff. But then the other bubble is like your needs, interests, desires, abilities. So the objectives are going to be a blend of what Scripture says and then how you're uniquely fitted to make that. So objectives tend to go in the same direction, but that's why you have a selection of them and you pick the one that fits you best. So there's some people are just wired different ways, so the way you phrase it is going to resonate with your inner being better. And objectives tend to be in the same direction. For instance, do your work heartily as unto the Lord. Should that apply to everybody? Yeah, all right. Yeah, it's like all those commands are probably pretty black and white thing. But then how you do it and stuff, it's going to vary. Okay, under friends, there's a series I did on Daily Truth Based, The Nature of Friendship. Roman numeral 2 is, in order to be good friends with each other, you first must be a friend of God. You all know the triangle thing? Here's a triangle, kind of trapezoidal, whatever. Anyway, here's one person, here's the other person. The closer they are to God, the closer they are to each other. Yeah, it's one of these things, okay? So if you're both good friends of God, you can be good friends of each other. If one person is really close to God and one's away from God, the distance between those people is going to be great. And what happens to a lot of people, particularly people come to Christ later in their life after they're married, is one starts growing. So they're both here, one gets closer to God, and as a result the distance between them gets bigger and bigger, and then it causes even more and more conflict. But if they both start growing towards God, they get closer to each other as they get closer to God. So if you want to be a good friend of someone else, you first need to be a friend of God. And the points that I've underlined I think are worth noting. Obedience, actually all of them are worth noting, but obedience sets hearts in the same direction. So you're both headed down the same path. Your needs are met on the infinite level. One of the subsets of this thing called the royal law of love, which the scriptures say we're going to be judged by, is that God meets our needs, so we're free to meet the needs of others. And even though we are finite beings, we have almost an infinite amount of needs. If we look to another person to meet those needs, we are going to be miserable. If we have our needs met by God, then we're free to meet the needs of others. Because I don't have to have anything back in return. I'm not doing this to get my needs met. I'm doing this to obey God. I'm doing this with the grace and strength He provides, so I don't have to get all upset if things don't go the way I want. Emerson, from almost a more secular perspective, said the condition which high friendship demands is the ability to live without it. So if someone go around saying, "Oh, be my friend, please, my friend, will you be my friend?" Who wants a friend like that? "Oh, I need to have you be my friend." Yeah. All right, so that's why you want to have needs met by. So a relationship with God is going to help you have a better relationship with others. The character becomes more lovable, and you all thought it was a cuddly sweater. No, it's the character becomes more lovable by basically getting off the rough edges, the resources of the rocky relationship. And then there's stuff developing the skill set necessary for friendships. So you study friendship, see what it says. These are the skill sets. Look what the first one is. Self-denial. So, most people's friends go like this. "Oh, enough about me talking about me. How about you? Why don't you talk about me?" And that's really the way it is. And what we frequently have, I hear and I experience is, I've talked with people for 2 hours. They have not asked me a single question about themselves. I can tell you everything about them. From what they ate to where they went to school to what it was like wrong. I mean, the whole thing. Never did it enter into their thinking, "Oh, what about you?" It's just amazingly so. And I realized, oh, that's really a needy person. They don't have God meeting any of their needs. So, okay, I'll be God's agent for them to help them meet their needs. But you only get so much grace, and then they need to start basically developing the skill sets.
On the flip side, some people never tell you anything about themselves. So it's the same thing.
Why do you say that? I mean, remember, it's an intimate relationship is self-disclosure, and there has to be certain levels of self-disclosure. Anyway, there's a whole bunch more on relationships. There's biblical friendships. Biblical friendships are the foundation for everything else. That whole, spousal kid thing, all that other stuff. There's skills that you need to develop, and as you're probably going to be, I have 2 things I say this about, actually 3. You're going to be eating for the rest of your life, so you might as well learn how to do it well. If you're going to be a Christian for the rest of your life, you're going to be reading the Bible for the rest of your life, so you might as well learn how to do that well. And if you're going to be relating to people, you might want to learn a little bit about it. So, enough said on that. Just one piece out of this. C.S. Lewis says, we picture lovers face to face, but friends side by side. And friends invest in each other and in a common cause. So it's that whole triangle thing. The closer you are to following God, the closer you are to others. If you go back into the New Testament times, when Jesus said, follow me, those who followed him had good relationships with each other because they had such huge commonality. I sacrificed everything to follow Jesus. I don't know where he's going, what he's doing, but I know it's the right thing to do, and I'm going to do it. And next to him was a person who said the same thing, so they had potential for really good relationships. Of course, they argued about who's going to be greatest, but you need to have common objectives that make common friends. And if you think about it, the relationship is, I'm making an investment in this other person. So you have to have an idea of how you invest in them, what their needs are, how you can meet those needs. And then you have to have your needs met so you can meet their needs. And if you have two individuals who are geared on meeting each other's needs, when they come together, it's really good. If you have two individuals who are all about getting their needs met, when they come together, it's really miserable. When Jill and I were out of college, we were investing in college students through a ministry called the Navigators. And college students are not the most, cultured, polite, civilized individuals. They actually are very self-centered, immature little babies. And so you learn to draw upon God's resources to minister to them, to serve them. Then Jill and I got married, and all of a sudden, here was this person who appreciated something. Wow, that was really good. It made serving a joy because so we learned to self-deny our desires to serve others, and when you bring two people together who have that relationship, you have the basis for a really good relationship, despite whatever dysfunctional things happen to them in their youth. Okay, so I'm not going to do more on relationships until maybe later if you ask. Food's coming at
12:30.
Thank you. But I want to touch on spiritual growth. Oh, I'm getting further. So you're supposed to grow. All right, this is an interesting thing. A plant that stays exactly the same is silk or plastic or dead. I used to deliberately annoy Joe when we first married by misting her silk plants. All right, she's been through a lot. So you should have another leaf or so out, or some fruit out, compared to this time last year. One of the things that we do at Big Apple Chapel is we ask people to fill out a sheet a couple times a year saying, well, how have you grown and how can we help you grow more? And for some people when they first do it, they think, how have I grown? What do you mean? And you should be able to look back and see yourself be more like Christ this year than you were last year. Have made greater progress in manifesting fruits of the Spirit than in the past. Have actually done things that bring God glory and honor more than last year. There's this growth thing that's supposed to happen, and it goes on through all your life, because if you stop growing, you are dead, or plastic, or silk. Personal growth objective, that's just the next one you order. To prove how good I am or can be, to be interesting and admired by others, to be the best I can be so I'll like myself or be secure. Being the best is not a good objective. Olympic skaters, person who wins the gold medal, best in their craft. But then you look at what they sacrificed. Everything. Friendships, relationships, family, everything. So being the best takes everything out of you, and normally a person's quest for the best is because they're not getting worth and value from God. They're not doing what pleases God, so they have to get worth and value from others. It's using them, that objective. So they will try to grow and be the best I can be, so others are like, oh, how wonderful. Now, that's kind of foolish, because there's always going to be someone better than you, and then someone else, even if you are the best in the world, how long does that last? Not very, back when I was the best in the world, it doesn't last. So, the whole thing is to be best in, be the best kind of person you can be in God's sight. And that is balancing all these objectives. I remember when I was in school, I thought, I had this Hebrew class, and I thought, I don't do well memorizing Hebrew verb forms, and I really don't need to know this, and I'm going to go for a B in this course because I have a wife that I need to talk with. My wife would say, don't you need to study? Oh, the other guys study. How come you're not studying? And so I wasn't going to be the best in Hebrew because I wanted to be a better husband than I would be otherwise. And end result, I actually did get an A in my last Hebrew course. So God made it up to me. But yeah.
Just side note on your Olympic skater thing, but I'm thinking of kids in high school, college. There's competitions that they can compete for. Is that a good thing, bad thing?
Oh yeah, I think competition is great because it causes you to maximize your time and resources and energy and strength. So competition puts a lot of the families here debate. That just takes a huge chunk out of your life. However, it causes people to learn stuff they normally wouldn't at a level they wouldn't, and then strive for excellence. Excellence is good. Worth and value coming from excellence, bad. But the process of striving. At work, strive for excellence, but within the confines. Like you want to strive to be the best salesperson at work. That means you're going to wake up at 5 a.m. and you're going to be still going at midnight. All right, so you might be the best salesperson they've got. You made those extra calls. You did all the things that it takes to go the extra mile. All right, what about the rest of your life? So at work, you basically want to give them what they bargained for, which was not a pound of flesh, and do the best job you can within the confines, and then trust God for the results. And there are times when you have to go above and beyond. That's wonderful and that's good. If it becomes the everyday thing, that's not good. Time for another job. Because you have other things that you're put on the planet for. And for kids, competition, I think, is wonderful because then they have to learn to deal with not doing well. They have to learn with doing well. They have to learn with balancing things. Competition's good. Okay, so you have some better objectives down below. I would encourage you to pick one. I'm going to cover personal growth the last half a little bit more. A lot of this is geared towards personal growth. So that might be our last time there. Oh wait. Next one should be spiritual life. All right. This is where we're going to put some time in because this is the key to friendships. It's the key to getting God's blessing. It's the key to having life purpose get fulfilled. So spiritual life objective, and we're actually going to fill this out. I used to be able to write on this screen, but I'm not going to do this one. Oh, just to finish this off, there's values. I'm not going to cover these. You can cover them on your own to help to support each of the objectives. And there's a little thing on top about how you can actually go about thinking about this for those of you who are thinkingly challenged. There's actually team competencies. Teams, if your parents didn't quite have their act together, they're not going to be able to help you get your act together. This is how you can train yourself. Just go look at these, figure out what you need to work on, and work on it. And if you can't figure it out, send me an email and I'll forward it to somebody. There are all kinds of tools, this is in the table of contents, that can help you manage these different aspects of your life, and we're going to look at one of those now, I hope. Oh, here's training objectives. Did you guys realize there's a Christian career path? Yeah, there is. There are certain things that God expects you to do, and there's almost a logical order to it. So what I did is I put together, I think, 30 objectives. You basically can do these over the course of 2 years with taking the summers off for backsliding. And you should have these things under your belt. It's competencies that you should develop. When I was in Dallas, I took a field trip to DFW Airport where the American Airlines trained their pilots. And they had these simulators and stuff. And one of the things that impressed me about it is they believed in competency-based training. You do it until you can do it well. So if you're in a plane circling Newark Airport in a thunderstorm with big downdrafts, do you want a pilot who got a 66 on that on the exam? It's like a 35% chance that you're dead. So you want a guy who can land the plane in those conditions. So they train them till they are competent in it. It's not like, oh, I passed the test and now I'm done. That works on some things, but not, you want the person to be competent. So there's certain objectives that you should be shooting for in your Christian life. I'm going to focus in on one. It's number 2 here, it's worship, and the specific thing is having a quiet time. It seems to be the most difficult thing for most Christians to do. And it's most fundamental to the Christian life. So that's why we're going to do a project planner on it. I want you to understand this. I want you to have quiet times. So here, I put these kind of almost in affirmations. You evaluate yourself on these. You know, first one is, you know for sure that if you were to die, you go to heaven. That's, you know, get that one out of the way. Then, number 2 is, now you want to develop a relationship with God, and here's how you do it. I have a consistent, 6 out of 7 days a week, put off 1 for wimps, with time with God, reading His Word, to know Him better, and what He desires for me. And I want to respond back in prayer. And I can teach someone else to do the same thing. If you cannot teach someone how to have a relationship with God, you probably don't have a good relationship with God. You need to work on that. You learn the truth, you live the truth, and then you love others with the truth. You need to learn it, live it, and then you pass it on. So, good hallmark of whether or not you're having a decent quiet time is, can you teach someone else how to do it? 2 Timothy 3:16 and some discipleship passages will help you do that. So this little section is on quiet times, and oh, look at that. A word from our sponsor. Pick up one of these cards, Daily Truth Base. It actually has your quiet time for you. Andrew Min wrote an app for it, so now you just play it on your phone, and you don't even have to, do anything. I'm trying to get one that he does for church too. So you just have the app on your phone. It does church for you. It's like, these things are wonderful, and you can just go on automatic pilot and do whatever you want. So Daily Truth Base helps you read the scriptures and respond back to God, and it helps you get through the scriptures in a year, understanding the original context. And it has some colorful things on it. So, there's a prayer list that's in your thing. We want to have a quiet time, and if you look at the boards up there, read, reflect, record, respond. It's basically read and respond are the 2 biggies in there. You have to think in between, and then record a thought. So that's the essence of it. So you look at the scriptures, think about what they say, think about what God wants you to do, and then you commit to doing it. That's simple. So, to have a goal, we have information. I'm going to have you have a goal with a project planner. All right, this is the world's smartest piece of paper. Helps you have smart goals. All you have to do is add your brain, and it will solve any problem for you. Okay, so people have started businesses with these. They have developed relationships with these. They've changed jobs with these. Steve asked earlier about, if you don't like your job, this will help you figure out what you don't like about your job and how to do it. I was on a board once, and I realized some of the people on the board were volunteers that really were clueless as to how to plan. So I put together the kind of planning that's supposed to go on in executive thinking. And I gave it to some professional planners for feedback, I gave it to engineers for feedback, and it's basically got everything you need to solve any problem in your life, take advantage of any opportunity. If something in your life is not working, this can fix it. If you want to go for something, this can help you get there. It's the most powerful piece of paper on earth. I used to pass them out, I forgot to bring them. So what I'd like you to do is do a project planner with your neighbor on having a quiet time. Now, to help you, we have a solution starter for SMART goals. So I realize people have difficulty. So these are things I heard in my seminars over the years, and I eventually put them together. And defining a problem gets you halfway to the solution. So defining the problem is the thing you're going to do in a few minutes. And the INT is I need to in here. So some of you would say, my goals didn't get accomplished. All right? I think that's the problem. After they reflect a little bit, they realize, oh, I need to save up and pay the same price that Christ did to do the Father's will. My goals didn't get accomplished because I spent my time doing something else. Therefore, I need to save my time and then invest it in doing the Father's will. I remember a guy in one of my seminars, one of the very first ones I did, he raised his hand and said, nobody will give me a job. And I said, well, why would anybody hire you? How have you identified how you could be in the employer's best interest to hire you? That's really what's going on. And it's identify how it can be in someone's best interest for you to meet their needs. Then you can get a job. You can sell them on the fact that they should hire you. I need a better job. Here's the basic solution. Maximize your service in your current workplace. Expand your capabilities in areas where there is need. And you might not even need to change. They might rearrange things. I'm going to go down to number G, or letter G. I don't have enough time. All right, we'd all say this, right? We actually have all the time that there is. You can't go get anywhere else. This year you get one extra day, but other than that, you got all you're going to get. So the real problem is you need to stop squandering your time on the wrong objectives and start doing God's will exclusively. So I have a little thing with the scissors on it. We're going to say toil scissors, how to cut things out of your life that aren't contributing to your purpose and objectives and saves you a bunch of time. Life management helps you with time management, because if you are managing your life, there's lots of stuff you can say no to. And I actually will teach you how to say no in the second hour or after lunch. My quiet time's too quiet. Alright, so I need to value God's perspective and power for my day more than Satan's perspective and power. It's kind of what it boils down to. So think about this when you write your project planner in the next minute. I'm too busy. I need to realize that I have all the time in the world to do God's will. We do. Then you got to clean out the clutter and tie each activity to a God-pleasing objective. I get overwhelmed, you can figure that one out yourself. Okay, so in the next, I'll give you 3 minutes to do this one. I want you to come up with Roman numeral 1 on this. This is page 42. The initial statement of people not having quiet time. Everybody understand what I mean by quiet time? A time of reading and responding to God's Word. I'll help you figure out why there's the initial statement, why there's a problem, and I want you to get down to the definition statement. And then I'll help you make that into a SMART goal. Everybody clear what you need to do? Just on a piece of scrap paper, you can do it verbally, whatever it is. You basically want to do number 1, number 2, you could do 3 and 4 if you need to, and then get to 5. You got 3 minutes.
Problem why other people don't do it. They feel like they don't have time. They feel like they're not going to get something out of it. They value it highly enough to calling, like they wake up, okay, I 20 minutes early, and they don't value it. They value using that time for other things and and then off of that, because they don't value it, they're not willing to make the sacrifice. So, they don't value factors they don't understand the practicality of spending time and my way I think they are deceived about 2 things. One is that they don't have a proper view of Trinity, and second, they don't have a realization that unless you are daily training yourself, you will actually do it very bad. Whatever. And then I'd also say one of the factors is that they're not encouraged to teach some kind of development habit. And that sort of fact of being about helps you starting part of the problem that you're not reading about getting the depth. How do you jump from the next I mean, obviously, time is an issue. Environment, you're not going to have it.
I'd also say improper view of what it entails. Another consideration of you have to watch hours. You even reflect, record. I don't I think keeping what I guess there's some
That's basically defining what the problem is.
Because they don't understand what it is.
So what should step up here? So what do you say about it? What's the problem? Why don't you have Okay, can I have your attention, please? All right. 5 more minutes. That's it. Let's go. I need your attention because food's here and I get hungry. Okay. So, what's the initial problem? Roman numeral 1. What's your initial problem? Okay, so no quiet time. Ta-da! All right, there it is. All right, what are some possible causes?
Sleep.
What was that one? Sleep. You're sleeping, so that's really quiet. So what's the problem with sleep? You stay up too late doing things that you value more than time with God, which is sleep. Okay, what's the other one?
Easily distracted.
What? All right, so sleep, distracted. All right, what else?
Don't know how to have one, don't know where to go.
Don't know, right, knowledge. What else? Don't want to. Evil, okay. It's a depravity thing. All right. Yeah, actually, under the don't want to, you don't value it. All right, so it's an issue of value, which is actually almost everything gets back to the fact that you don't value things. Yeah, Chet.
You don't see the immediate benefit?
Oh, a child of immediate gratification. Yeah, no bennies, all right? I want to see it now, all right? So you don't realize that some things are a process. Yeah, Chad.
You don't see the consequences of not doing it?
Ah, no consequences. All right. These would all apply for not going to the gym, if you notice. Right? I'm sleeping. I don't see anything. I tried it once and I'm still the same as, it's like, what's the point? It's a lost cause, and I'll still live tomorrow, and please pass the donuts. Okay, another one?
You don't think you need to have quiet time in order to have a good relationship with God?
Ah, yeah, just self-deception, right, deceived, right. You don't understand, you think you can actually get by life without spending any time with God. So that's like the guy who joins the military, goes through his day, and at the end of the day says, okay, anything I'm supposed to do today, boss? It's like, so there's no dependence, there's no seeking God's will, there's not doing what's supposed to happen. All right, so those are possible causes. So you're not having a quiet time or not a consistent one. These are some causes. Anybody get any motivation things? Go through life with a power assist. God will help you. Anything? Anybody put anything down here?
I have from last year, God's waiting for you.
My Heart Christ Home by Boyd Munger, or whatever his name is. Really great little book. Google it. It basically has the person go into his life and says, I asked Christ into my life and here he comes to my house and this is all the stuff he does. And God is actually waiting to meet with you. He's got stuff that's going to help you through the day. He's omniscient. He's omnipotent. He knows everything and has all this great source of power. Don't you want to tap into that? And the earlier the better. So we're going to be something after lunch on the will of God, and this is a great way to figure out what is God's will. Resources, we all know what this one is. Daily Truth Base. Pick up a card. And, oops, that'll do it. Okay, so now you've got...
Oh, also friends who can encourage you.
Ooh, friends, yeah.
Body.
That's a good one. Okay, so now you've got a little bit understanding of the problem. Okay, I'm not having a quiet time because I don't really know what's going on. I don't have any, I'm not reaping any benefits from it. It's just I open my Bible, I close it, nothing happens. So, you now need to put a definition statement of the opportunity, problem, or need. So you could do it from the standpoint of, in order to meet with God and get His perspective on things, I need to have a quiet time. In order to survive life and get God's power, I need a quiet time. In order to not be a bad Christian, in order to be able to help others, in order to be useful for God. I mean, you basically are going to define what the problem is. Most people are going to say something along the lines of, I need a plan, methodology, motivation to meet with God. It's 2 E's, 1 E. Oops, capital G. Don't want to get him upset. All right. So that's kind of, okay, now, is that more solvable than I'm not having a quiet time? Yeah, it actually has some steps you can actually start taking. So you go to the very bottom of this, next one down, and it says brainstorm advantages and disadvantages. So I used to give people the sheet, and you fold it in half so it's a little booklet form. And then if you were starting a business, or you want to figure out how to have a better relationship with something, or if you have kids, and I don't know what to do with my kid, you slot these in, and you start brainstorming possible solutions. So what you do with brainstorming is you come up with ideas. Then you go back and evaluate them. You don't evaluate them right away. You want to get as many possible ideas out there, and then you come up with ways to do it. Since lunch is here, we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to put together a SMART goal. What happened to my stuff that was supposed to be up here? I know you're here. I'll just have to find you. Oops, that's not good. Control Z. That's even worse. I know you're in here somewhere.
I'm trying to figure out.
This one down here?
Planner, yeah, if you scroll down.
Scroll down, down.
There's image overlaid and I don't know why.
You're not in President.
Yeah, I'm not supposed to be in President. I'm supposed to be in a Word document.
Did you?
No, I can't do the
did
PDF.
you
It's like, here it is, back here.
Yeah, but why is the diagram on top?
It's me, boss. All right, we got it. Definition statement, brainstorm, but I'm missing. Oh, I got to go up.
Right.
Ta-da! There it is. I have skills in other areas. This isn't one of them. I can still feel good about myself. All right. So, a SMART goal. All right. You don't want to have dumb goals. You want to have SMART goals, or ones that are specific. This is, think about the football going over the goal line or the touchdown line. You can know when it happened. It's specific. It's measurable. It leads to some steps of action. It's a realistic, doable thing, and it transforms or changes the situation. So those are characteristics of SMART goals. So after you figure out what your problem is and you've got potential solutions, you then take potential solutions and you try to work them into a SMART goal. SMART goals frequently have a in order to, I will, consisting of, measured by this date. Those are really, really smart. Okay? So, I'm going to actually try to, let's see if we can plug this in.
I think you got cap lock this time.
Yeah, probably. But I'll leave it that way. In order, actually I could probably give it small so you can't hear me typing. In order. Yeah, got it. English is a wonderful language. To. All right. What do we put next? In order to have a quiet time? In order to, let's get this a little more activating, a little more transforming. Develop a closer relationship with God. All right, let's make that even better, more specific. Whoops.
Yeah, you can't do that.
How about, you guys want benefit? Get God's power for my day This is entertainment. There's no extra charge for this.
W.
Thank you. All right. Is that like a smarter statement? Does this actually show you what you're supposed to get? You want to see what God thinks about your day. You want to get His resources to do it. All right. So that's pretty cool. Well, at least I think so. I will. What? Have a quiet time?
Early.
All right. Wow. I used to try to draw this, and it's even worse. I'll have a daily. You went daily, okay?
In the morning.
Morning, Psalm 5, really good on that. In the morning, I'll lay my request before you.
To the you.
Morning. Yeah, they used to call. Oh, yeah. What happened? I just lost it. They used to call it QT. It's really DT. Daily Truth. Sorry. It'll get you on there. It teaches you how to have one. It teaches you how to make responses. It even teaches you how to pray, and it actually is good for what ails you. Daily quiet time or whatever, consisting of. What do you want? 5 minutes? You want more?
Start small.
Okay, 15. It'll take you about that long to get through Daily Truth Base. 15 minutes of reading and response. So the idea is you read and then you respond back. Really good thing to do is to think about what you have on your to-do list and pray about those things. And in the response, you pray back. Say, God, I need your help on this. I need your help on this. And lots of times as I have thought about what I have to do that day and I lay before God, I'll realize, oh, that's really, I don't have to do that. I shouldn't do that. Oh, yeah, I better change that one. And God rearranges my to-do list. So I enter my days thinking, this is what God wants me to do. 15 minutes by Fridays, as measured by what? Journal. Journal thought. Write something in the journal, some little thought. And I want to do this 6 out of 7 days, and I want to be able to make sure I can do that by March. Oh wait, this year we can do something a little different. Feb 29. Aha. All right. You got a month to bring it up to speed. All right, is that smart? Is it specific? Is it measurable? You tell if you've done it, if you've not done it. All right, then you do your outline of what steps do I need. I need to subscribe to Daily Truth Base. It'll show up in my mailbox every day. Or I basically need to get a plan. There's a reading plan in toyl if you want that. There's like all kinds of tricks. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Then how much time, any money, incentives. What kind of incentive will you enjoy? Better life. Ice cream sundae. Latte. Whatever. All right, so that is the concept of how to set a SMART goal. Now, I just need to do, let me see if I can do one more thing. Because I know the food's here. Oops.
Okay.
You know, I actually don't want to reuse the resources. This is the one I just did. Yeah, discard this. Who needs this stuff? All right, project planner. See if this goes into the. We did that. We did that. We did that. Incentives. We did that. Oh, okay, this is what we come back to. All right, so we'll talk about how to prioritize and the will of God for the break. I guess if I say grace for everybody, then. Just lunch, okay. Thanks, Father, for giving us life. I pray that we would use it for your purposes, for your glory. I pray that you would help us do the things that you put us on earth to do. Help us be aware of them and draw on your strength to make it happen. Thanks for our food and fellowship that we'll have in Christ's name. Amen. Let's come back in 10 minutes after and on your right.